there. But today we find ourselves again with Brother Job and his friends in chapter 15. And at this point, we hear again from Eliphaz, who was the first friend of Job's to speak all the way back in chapter 4. And this second time, Eliphaz claims that he is older than Job and more experienced than Job, and thus he knows better, and Job ought to listen. And he begins in verses 1 and 2 of the book of Job, saying, "Then answered Eliphaz the Temanite, and said, Should a wise man utter vain knowledge and fill his belly with the east wind?" Well, here again he's saying to Job what he basically said before. Job, you're just a big bag of wind. Should he reason with unprofitable talk, or with speeches whereof he can do no good? Yea, you cast off fear and restrain prayer before God. For your mouth utters your iniquity, and you choose the tongue of the crafty. Your own mouth condemns you, not I. Yea, your own lips are testifying against you. Are you the first man that was ever born? Or were you made before the hills? Have you heard the secret of God? Do you restrain wisdom yourself? What do you know that we don't know? What do you understand which is not in us? With us is the gray-headed and the very aged men, much older than your father. Are the consolations of God small with thee? Is there any secret thing with thee? In other words, he's saying, we've been giving you God's advice, man. Is it nothing to you? Why does your heart carry thee away? What are your eyes winking at? Job, what sin are you just sort of closing your eyes to? That you turn your spirit against God and let such words go out of your mouth. What is man that he should be clean? And he which is born of a woman that he should be righteous? Behold, God puts no trust in his saints. Yea, the heavens are not clean in his sight. How much more abominable and filthy is man, who drinks iniquity like water. I will show you, hear me, and that which I have seen I will declare, which wise men have told from their fathers and not hid it. Well, Eliphaz here is speaking of the traditions of their time. These are the so-called truths that are passed down from the fathers to their sons, paternal platitudes, if you will, the wisdom of their age. And he continues saying, Unto whom alone the earth was given, and no stranger passed among them. The wicked man travaileth with pain all his days, and the number of years is hidden to the oppressor. A dreadful sound is in his ears. In prosperity the destroyer shall come upon him. They believed, and they keep saying, that a man who experiences pain is surely wicked. A man who is wiped out, as Job has been, is a man who is obviously guilty of sin. He believes not that he shall return out of darkness. He is waited for of the sword. He wanders abroad for bread, saying, Where is it? And he knows that the day of darkness is ready at his hand. Trouble and anguish shall make him afraid, and they shall prevail against him as a king that is ready to battle. For he stretched out his hand against God, and he strengthened himself against the Almighty. He runs upon him, even on his neck, and the thick bosses of his bucklers, because he covers his face with fatness, and makes the collops of fat on his flanks. And he dwells in desolate cities, in houses which no man inhabits, which are ready to become heaps. He shall not be rich, neither will his substance continue, neither shall he prolong the perfection thereof upon the earth. He shall not depart out of darkness, and the flame shall dry up his branches. By the breath of his mouth shall he go away. Let not him that is deceived trust in vanity, for vanity shall be his recompense. Job, you're deceiving yourself, he says. You're trusting in emptiness, and emptiness will be the result, your reward. It shall be accomplished before his time. His branch shall not be green. He shall shake off his unripe grape as the vine, and cast off his flower as the olive. For the congregation of the hypocrites shall be desolate, and fire shall consume the tabernacles of bribery. They conceive mischief and bring forth emptiness, and their belly prepares deceit. So all of these things he's saying here basically are, in a sense, accusations against Job. Job, you've been deceitful. Job, you've been lying. Job, you're a hypocrite. You know you're wicked, and all these things are happening to you because of your iniquity, is what Eliphaz says to him. Chapter 16 here, Job answers him again and says, I have heard many such things. Yea, miserable comforters are you all. Just as we heard him say last week. And talking about vanity, he said, shall empty words have an end? Or what emboldens you that you answer? I also could speak as you do if you were in my place. I could heap words against you and shake my head at you. But I would rather to strengthen you with my mouth, and the moving of my lips should assuage your grief. Though I speak, my grief is not assuaged, and though I forbear, what am I eased? If I'm quiet, you tell me to be quiet, he says. What good would that do? If I say something, you guys will just mouth off more. But now he hath made me weary. You have made me desolate, all my company, and you have filled me with wrinkles, which is a witness against me. And my leanness rising up in me bears witness to my face. He tears me in his wrath who hates me. He gnashes upon me with his teeth. Mine enemy sharpeneth his eyes upon me. They have gaped upon me with their mouth. They have smitten me upon the cheek reproachfully. They have gathered themselves together against me. God hath delivered me unto the ungodly, and turned me over into the hands of the wicked. I was at ease until you guys showed up. But he also has taken me by my neck and shaken me to pieces and set me up for his mark. Now he's referring to God again. He's going back to this. He says, his archers compass me round about. He cleaves my reins asunder. He cuts me in two, basically. He does not spare. He pours out my gall upon the ground. He breaks me with the branch upon branch. He runs upon me like a giant. I have sewed sackcloth upon my skin and defiled my horn in the dust. My face is foul with weeping, and on my eyelids is a shadow of death. Not only for any injustice in my hands, also my prayer is pure. O earth, cover not thou my blood, and let my cry have no place. Also now behold, my witness is in heaven, and my record is on high. He says, okay, you guys, God is my witness. My record is on high. God has the records. My witness is there in heaven. I don't care what you guys say. I'm not even going to try to justify myself to you guys anymore. Think what you will of me. God knows the truth. And you know, it can be, in a way, comforting sometimes when we're misunderstood by other people, if you know what I mean, when our motivations are misread by others. Because many times we're accused of things which we are not at all guilty of. You know, someone misreads our thoughts, our ideas, our motivations. But we can rest assured because our witness is in heaven. I mean, God knows the truth about me, and that, in a way, is a comfort to me. God keeps the books. He knows the truth. He knows what's in my heart. He keeps the records. Job says, "My friends scorn me, but my eye pours out tears unto God. Oh, that one might plead for a man with God, as a man pleads for his neighbor. Oh, that you'd intercede for me," he says. "That you'd pray for me," Job says. And you know, I wonder why they hadn't thought of that too. I mean, here's their friend who's so much in trouble. Why didn't they come and pray for him, intercede for him? You know, as one should intercede for his friends, instead of just heaping all kinds of insults and abuse on him, as they have been. "When a few years are come, I'm going to go the way from which I shall not return," he says. And into chapter 17, "My breath is corrupt, my days are extinct, the grave is ready for me. Are there not mockers with me, and doth not mine eye continue in their provocation? Lay down now, put me in a surety with thee. Who is he that will strike hands with me? Who will be my friend, and trusted confidant, or bondsman? For you have hid your heart from understanding, therefore thou shalt exalt them. He that speaketh flattery to his friends, even the eyes of his children shall fail. He hath made me also a byword of the people, and aforetime I was a tabret." It's a musical instrument. He's saying, before to them I was a song, now I'm a curse. "My eye also is dim by reason of sorrow, and all my members are as a shadow. Upright men shall be astonished at this, and the innocent shall stir up himself against the hypocrite. The righteous also shall hold on his way, and he that hath clean hands shall be stronger and stronger. But as for you all, do ye return and come now? For I cannot find one wise man among you. My days are past, my purposes are broken off, even the thoughts of my heart. They change the night into day, the light is short because of darkness. If I wait, the grave is my house. I have made my bed in the darkness. I have said to corruption, you are my father. To the worm, you are my mother and my sister. And where is now my hope? As for my hope, who shall see it? They shall go down to the bars of the pit, when our rest is together in the dust. The word for pit here is that word Sheol, that deep pit in the earth, which at that time was where the spirits of those who had died were being reserved, either in hope or in torment, a temporary holding place as hell, something like that. Chapter 18, we hear from another guy that we heard from before. Bildad says, Then answered Bildad, So here we are again listening to the shortest man in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Bildad the Shuhite, right? Well, how long will it be before you make an end of words, he says. Just make the mark, and afterwards we will speak. Why do you count us like beasts, and we are vile in your sight? You tear yourself in anger. Shall the earth be forsaken for thee, and shall the rock be removed out of his place? Yes, the light of the wicked will be put out, and the spark of his fire will not shine. He's saying, Job, your light's going to be put out, man. Because you're wicked, your sparks will not shine. He goes on. The light shall be dark in his tent, and his candle shall be put out with him. The steps of his strength shall be straightened, and his own counsel shall cast him down. For he is cast into a net by his own feet. He walks upon a snare. The bear trap will take him by the heel, and the robber shall prevail against him. The snare is laid for him in the ground, and the trap for him in the way. Terrors shall make him afraid on every side, and shall drive him to his feet. His strength shall be hunger-bitten, and destruction shall be ready at his side, and it shall devour the strength of his skin. Even the firstborn of death shall devour his strength. His confidence shall be rooted out of the tabernacle, and he shall bring him into the king of terrors. It shall dwell in his tent, because it is none of his. Brimstone shall be scattered upon his house. His roots shall be dried up from beneath, and above his branch will be cut off. His remembrance shall perish from the earth, and he shall have no name in the street. He shall be driven from light into darkness, and chased out of the world. He shall neither have son nor nephew among his people, nor any remaining in his dwellings. They that come after him will be astonished at his day, and they that went before him will be frightened. Surely such are the dwellings of the wicked, and this is the place of him that knoweth not God. Ouch! He's really landed on thick here to Job, wouldn't you say? I mean, he says his branch will be cut off. And that's a really cruel reference to the cutting off of both roots and branches from Job, therefore blotting out the remembrance of his entire family from future generations, which is a big thing, especially back then. And it was no doubt a reminder of the sudden death of all his sons and daughters, who were killed so quickly at the beginning. And into chapter 19, we hear Job answer him. And he says, How long will you vex my soul and break me into pieces with your words? These 10 times you have reproached me, and you're not ashamed that you made yourself like a stranger to me. And be it indeed that I have erred, my error remaineth within myself. If indeed ye will magnify yourselves against me, and plead against me my reproach, know now that God hath overthrown me, and compassed me in his net. Well, here he goes again. And this is the thing that I think upsets his friends, that he keeps blaming God for the calamities. This is the things that really upset him. But Job keeps coming back to it, you'll notice. Look, I don't care what you say, fellas. God has overthrown me. We know, actually, that God only allowed Job to be overthrown. So Job doesn't really understand it fully himself yet. Behold, I cry out of wrong, but I am not heard. I cry aloud, but there is no judgment. He's fenced up my way, I cannot pass. He has set darkness in my paths. He stripped me of my glory and taken the crown from my head. He has destroyed me on every side, and I am gone. And my hope hath he removed like a tree. He hath also kindled his wrath against me. He counts me unto him as one of his enemies. His troops have come together and raise up their way against me, and encamp round about my tent. He has put my brothers far from me. Mine acquaintance are estranged from me. My kinsfolk have failed, and my familiar friends have forgotten me. They that dwell in my house and my maids count me as stranger. I am an alien in their sight. I call to my servant, and he doesn't even answer me. I beg with him with my mouth. My breath is strange to my wife, though I begged her for the children's sake of my own body. Yea, the young children despise me. I arose, and they spake against me. All my inward friends abhor me, and they whom I have loved have turned against me. My bones cleave to my skin and to my flesh. I am escaped by the skin of my teeth. I'm only just barely living, he says. Have pity on me, O ye my friends, for the hand of God hath touched me. Why do you persecute me as God, and are not satisfied with my flesh? Well, as you can see, Job is really in misery here. Okay, I mean, you talk about everything going against you that could possibly go against you, and he's got it. Everybody turns against him. He says, my servants, they won't even listen to me. I call them, they won't even answer. I beg them to come and help me. They're my servants, but they won't even listen. My wife, the one who bore my children, she's turned against me. I beg her, and she won't even listen. My friends, my close friends, they've all turned. And here I am all alone. Nobody understands me. Any of you ever had feelings like that? That nobody understands, nobody cares?
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me of my dad. When I would complain, he'd start singing. He'd say, nobody likes me, everybody hates me. Guess I'll go eat worms. Fat worms, juicy worms. And he went on just to make me feel so. But it sounds sort of like this. But Job is really in the pit. He does have a right to complain, I guess. But he can't get any lower than he is. And I don't care how bad I've had it, or you may have had it, it's not as bad as what he has here. Job has hit bottom. But so many times, it's when we get to the bottom that we look up. And that's where Job is. He's saying, though, that God has turned against me. My family has turned against me. My friends have turned against me. Nobody loves me. And he then says, oh, that my words were now written. Oh, that they were printed in a book. That they were graven with an iron pen and lead in the rock forever. There's a prayer that came true, right? We're reading it. He suddenly gains a strong desire to pass on his experiences, to write them down. And this is one strong evidence that Job is actually the author of this book, because no one could have actually known his feelings and words except for him. And in accord with the common practice of that age, which he says he would have written them down on stone tablets. And there's an ancient Jewish tradition which says that is indeed what he did, and passed them on to posterity, which eventually came into the possession of Moses, who later published them, what the Jews say. And then suddenly, out of this deep, dark place that he's in, Job declares, I know that my Redeemer liveth, and that he shall stand at the latter day upon the earth. And though after my skin the worms destroy this body, yet in my flesh shall I see God, whom I shall see for myself, and my eyes shall behold, and not another, though my reins be consumed within me. Out of the midst of darkest despair, Job gives this cry of glorious victory. I know, I may not know much at this point, but I do know this, the foundation upon which I stand, my Redeemer liveth, he says. And remember, too, that the book of Job is one of the oldest books in the Bible. And Job probably lived about the time of Abraham, long, long ago. And at this point, they had not had the prophets to testify to the people of the coming Messiah that we know of, the deliverer. And so Job's receiving a revelation here. It's a very limited revelation, but yet he knew that his Redeemer lived. He believed that there would be a Messiah, a Savior. And in the latter days, he knew he would stand upon the earth. And even though he knew he would die and his body would be eaten by worms, he would see his Redeemer for himself with his own eyes. And that's a glorious hope to have, even in the worst possible place. For him it was sustaining hope. And even Peter said, whom having not seen, yet you love. And even though you do not see him now, still we rejoice with a joy unspeakable and full of glory. And Job is saying something like that. So this great statement of faith also answers Job's earlier question about a future resurrection. They were talking about back in chapter 14. And it sounds to me as though Job is literally giving a prophecy about Jesus, his Redeemer, who shall stand upon the earth, and whom Job will see with his own eyes at that time. And I'm thinking that Job very well could have later been one of the first fruits who rose out of their graves at the time of Christ's resurrection, that other people saw and that were taken up with him on that day. Perhaps Job is one of the 24 elders we see in Revelation. And Job finishes with this. He says, but ye should say, why persecute we him, seeing the root of the matter is found in me? Be ye afraid of the sword, for wrath bringeth the punishments of the sword, that ye may know there is judgment. You see, these guys just keep coming at Job, insisting that he is wicked, that he's a hypocrite, and that's the reason for his problems. And we may wonder, why do we keep hearing this over and over? Why does the Lord labor on this so much in his word? Well, I think it's because there are people that are still just that way today. You probably heard it yourself. Sometimes it sounds better, but it's basically the same thing. If you are good, God will prosper you. And if you're evil, you'll be cut off. But we know that's not so. Righteous people suffer or prosper. Evil people prosper or suffer. We don't know why. And God allows this point to be pressed over and over from several different directions to show the folly of seeking with our own human wisdom and understanding to try to learn the ways and the reasons and the whys of God. And as we said back at the beginning of all this, the question of the book of Job is, why do godly people suffer? But the question is never really answered. What we are brought to is the assurance and the understanding that God does rule over our lives. And thus, I don't have to understand all the whys. All I have to understand is the fact that God is in control, and I can rest there no matter what happens. God controls the affairs of my life and the ultimate outcome. Let's pray. Father, help us that we will not be guilty of speaking deceitfully for you, thinking that we understand more than we do, the causes, the reasons, the whys, the particular things that happen to certain people. Help us, Father, that we will be intercessors. And if a brother or sister be overtaken in a fall, may we restore him in a spirit of weakness. If a brother is down, may we seek to lift him up. May we stretch out our hand of love and understanding to those who have fallen. Give us a heart like yours, Lord, a heart of compassion for the oppressed and for the needy. In Jesus' name, amen.